Okay, hello. In this particular lecture, we will understand the classification of internal combustion engine. Okay, so start करता हूँ मैं काफ़ी क्विकली हम लोग इसको समझेंगे जस्ट लाइक रिवीजन. ओके, सो क्लासिफिकेशन में हमें सबसे पहले एक फ्लो चार्ट दिखेगा. सो फ्लो चार्ट में आप देख सकते हो कि देर आर 9 टाइप्स classifications, 9 bases for the classification are there, and there are more several types of bases to classify the IC engine, but we are going to focus on only the important ones. Okay, so the IC engine are classified in terms of types of ignition types of ignition. Then number of stroke. We have several times we have discussed about this. Stroke means the movement of the piston from TDC to BDC, or we can say from the top to the bottom or left to the right. Okay, so then on the basis of fuels we have understand that what kind of fuels can be used. In the same way we can see the types of cycles. Okay, and then number of cylinders, that is the capacity of a engine. Okay, then the method of fuel supply, how the fuel is going to be supplied into the engine. Okay, and then based on the speed, based on cooling methods, and based on applications. Okay, so there are several types, but we are focusing on the important one, and once again the most important one are the starting six only. Okay, so next is on the basis of ignition. Based on type of ignition, we need to draw the same kind of diagram that we have done so many times. Like cylinder is there, and then there is a piston, and there are valves. We are assuming that whatever the engine we are going to discuss, that those are will be will be four stroke engine. That is why we are using valves. Okay, and you know that where we use valves in the four stroke. In case of two stroke, we will see in the upcoming lectures that in the two stroke we use the ports. Okay, ports. So you need to draw the same kind of diagrams. There is a cylinder, there is a piston, and then inlet wall, exhaust wall, and spark plug. And also we are assuming that this is the petrol engine. Okay, at the end of the compression stroke, the spark is ignited. At the end of the compression stroke, once the piston goes down during the suction stroke, and then the compression stroke, and at the end of the compression stroke, this spark plug will be activated and combustion will take place. Okay, so this is based upon the spark ignition. And what kind of fuel is to be used? If spark is there, then air fuel mixture, and it is working upon the auto cycle, because auto cycle uses petrols or gasolines. Okay, next is the compression ignition. Here we need to assume that this is uh, diesel engine, so the inlet of the air will be taken. Okay, so when the inlet valve goes down, the air will suck into the cylinder. Then once again the piston will goes down during suction stroke, and then goes up during compression stroke, and at the end of the compression stroke, the fuel injector will be activated, and fuel injected inside the compressed air. The compressed air is having the much more temperature than the self ignition temperature of the diesel diesel particles. Okay, diesel. So the combustion will take place, and then the power will be given by the engine. Okay, so there are two, SI and CI, and once again we can say this is the petrol and this is diesel. Once again we can say this is auto cycle and this is on the diesel cycle. Okay, next is based on the number of stroke. Obviously we know that uh, the strokes are, what is strokes? Stroke means the movement of the piston, the complete movement of the piston from TDC to BDC is known as a stroke. Okay, in a two-stroke engine, whenever piston takes two stroke from top to bottom, then bottom to top, it means two strokes are there. Okay, two strokes are there. So in this particular strokes, we can see the crank will revolve only one time, means one revolution will be there. Okay, if the crank point A is at this point, then the piston will be at the top. Okay, and again this point moves half of the cycle, half of the this imaginary circle. If the point A means the crank is like this, then the piston will be at a bottom dead center, and again the piston is moving in a clockwise direction and goes up to a point A again, then the piston will go up to the top dead center. Means if the piston is moving two stroke, then crank will take a single revolution. And in that particular case, if we get a power in a one stroke, then this engine will be termed as two stroke. Okay, this engine will be known as two stroke. And what is four stroke? If the piston takes four stroke, and in the four stroke there will be two revolution of the crank, and we get only one time power. Okay, so the complete cycle is taking place in a four stroke. That means two revolution, and that means one power stroke. So this is known as a four stroke. The name is based upon the motion of the piston for getting a single power. Okay, single power. So this is two stroke and four stroke. Next is based on types of fuel. We know that there are petrol, diesel, gas, CNG, and LPG are there. So we can write only the name of the fuels, that petrol engine, diesel engine, gas engine, CNG, LPG. Okay. So I'm adding some very important table which shows why we can use why we do compression, high compression in the diesel engine, why we do sparking into the petrol engine, and why we can use kerosene in the diesel engine, but it is prohibited by the government. Okay, so why it is so? So we can say, and why also we can use CNG into the petrol, not diesel engine, why? So there are two type of temperatures we have to understand first, but this is a extra or we can say out of the syllabus topic, but you have to understand to discuss anyone to understand the real design of the engines. We have to understand why the design is for only diesel engine, why this design is only for petrol engines. So we have to understand that. So what is a flash point? We have to understand first that what is flash point? The minimum temperature at which fuel vapor ignites momentarily, means achanak se, on exposure to the flame. Whenever there is a exposure to of the flame, like we lit up a matchstick, okay, and in that particular flame, if it is ignited, that temperature is known as flash point. Okay, if the fuel is getting ignited or burn out, started burning, so if that temperature is known as flash point. Okay, what is ignition temperature? Ignition temperature means if the temperature around the environment of the fuel is uh, as much so that the fuel started burning itself. If the environment is that particular temperature, that ignition temperature means like that, if I have a matchstick and it is burning out, okay, it is burning out, and if I put um, a, a, a container of a petrol, at what temperature it will get started to burning. Okay, and what is ignition temperature? If the all the environment of a fuel, like this is the environment and this is the fuel. Okay, so what is the temperature? What should be the temperature of this environment so that it get ignited itself? That point is known as ignition temperature. Okay, so obviously the flash point is lower than the ignition temperature. Okay, so for in the case of petrol, it is the uh, flash point is minus 43, and for ignition temperature is 250 to 300 degrees Celsius. Okay, I think this is not minus 43. Minus 43. Yes, this is minus 43. You can see the petrol is volatile at a low temperature. Volatile means less dense. It is getting vaporizing in a room temperature also. So that is why the mixing of petrol particles into the air is very easy. That is why we use air plus fuel mixture in case of petrol engines, because the fuel require air for combustion. So the mixing of air is very important. So mixing of air is very easy for the petrol. That is why the air and fuel is mixed before the suction stroke of the engine, and then both will be compressed and sparking will take place to start the combustion. For diesel, the density is higher than the petrol, you can see, and it is not getting vaporized to mix into the air, means it is not easy to mix with air. Okay, so that is why we need air separately to increase the temperature of the environment of the diesel, for the diesel. Okay, you can see the ignition temperature is lower, but we need a high compression to increase the temperature up to this point. Okay, so compression will increase the temperature and pressure also. So this is as much as this pressure is to be increased, so that the temperature will increase in between these values 210 to 250. Okay, so because it is not easy to mix with the air, so we need the environment, ignition temperature. We need in ignition temperature. Okay, so we can see this ignition temperature for the kerosene is also nearby to the diesel. That is why the kerosene can be used for in a diesel engine also, but it is prohibited because of some pollutants. Very harmful pollutants are there in the kerosene. That is why this is banned. Okay, so in a petrol, the temperature is very high. We increase the temperature up to 200 degrees Celsius by the compression, and then sparking will increase the temperature by to 250 to 300 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that is why these fuels are getting burned at a different temperature, at a different pressure. So if we ask which engine will have the more compression will take place in a diesel. That is why it is known as compression ignition engine. And the petrol engine will is not meant for compressing the air plus fuel as much as the diesel, because it uses the spark ignition, simple spark ignition, sparking. Okay, and then cng cng is si engine. That also up to certain extent it is to be modified to use in si engine. Okay, so I'm leaving this particular topic. We are going to understand for the fourth basis, that is on the cycle, that we have understood already, that auto cycle and diesel cycle. The difference between the auto cycle and diesel cycle is very important at the heat addition. Heat addition. This is the heat supply. The heat supply at a constant pressure. This is pressure. Okay, and in an auto cycle at a constant volume. Here heat addition at constant volume, heat supply. heat supply, and here constant pressure heat supply. Constant pressure heat supply. HS means heat supply. And there is a one more cycle, that is dual cycle, means it heat supply taking place at a both at a constant volume and constant pressure also. Heat supply 1, heat supply 2. Okay, so this is also a engine on the basis of number type of cycle. Then based on the number of cylinder, you can see this is a single cylinder, because you can see that there is a single exhaust pipe, but you can see in this there are two exhaust pipes. Okay, so it must have two cylinders. Okay, it must have two cylinders, two combustion will take place. That is why the exhaust will also be twice. And this is the bonnet, open bonnet engines, like for the four wheeler. We can see in this particular engine, we can see there are several type of images. One, two, three, four, five, six. I think this is the six cylinder engine. From spark plug, you can see these are the spark plug. You can understand that how many cylinders are there. There are four cylinders. Or we can see from the exhaust pipes, these exhaust pipes are also indicating that this is the four cylinder engine, but all these exhaust pipe will combine with a single last pipe. Okay, cylinder may be arranged in a inline, V type, opposed type. Like this is a V type, inline, V type, and opposed. This is an inline. Inline means top dead center is in the same line. Bottom dead center of all the cylinders are in a same line. This is V type. This is V type. Okay, and these are the horizontal, yeah, or opposed type of IC engine. Means their top BDC and TDC are different. TDC are nearby and BDC are far away from each other. Okay, so you can draw the diagrams like this, not the origin, this 3D kind of diagram. You can draw like this. There is a crankshaft. This is the crankshaft, but you can see the BDC are near to each other, but TDC are far away from each other. Okay, opposed type. Based on the cooling method, as you can see for the two wheelers, the air cooled fins are there. I have discussed so many times that there are plates which are used for the heat transfer, to increase the heat transfer from the cylinder to the environment. The air will come and take the heat and go away from the cylinder. Water cooled in the four wheeler, we need a water type of system, like we put some water inside that, so that air will come and decrease its temperature and go take the heat from the water and go away from the engine. Like the water is coming from this, and it goes near to the cylinders by water jackets, coolant jackets. Take the heat, get warmed, and go away. Now it is having higher temperature, and this higher temperature or the heat will take away by the air. Okay, and then once again the water get cooled and go into the water jacket again and again, and take the heat from the cylinder and give the heat to the air, and here air will be taken out by the this fan. Okay, next is based on method of fuel supply, the carburetor method and fuel injector. The carburetor is a device which is being used for mixing the air and fuel at a stoichiometric ratio of air and fuel. So the mixing of air is taking place in the only in the gasoline type of engines. Gasoline means petrol type of engine. So the carburetor is only present into the petrol engine. Okay, so this is the feature of the petrol engine, not the diesel engine. So fuel injector based diesel engines always use fuel injectors. Okay, so on the basis of fuel supply method, the carburetor method based and fuel injector based. This is also again, this is the petrol versus diesel. Petrol versus diesel based on speed, the high speed, low speed, medium speed. If the crank is rotating above to the 1200, then it is known as the high speed engines. Okay, this is 600 to 1200 rpm. One can ask like that, sir, if we increase change the gears, then the speed will be different. No, I'm talking about the speed of the crank. There is no gear before the crank. Gear will come after the crankshaft. Okay, so I'm talking about the speed of the crankshaft, that is the maximum speed of any engine. If you are at a highest gear, it means the speed of the crank is same as the speed of the vehicle. Okay, so the based on the cycle sorry speed, it is if the below 600 rpm rotation per minute, it is used in the marine, industrial use, and then automotive. Automotive means the automobiles. Okay, so the speed is above 1200 rpm. Based on application, marine use, industrial use like generator, diesel generator, and then automotive use means in automobiles, vehicles, vans, heavy vehicles, etc. Okay, then aerospace use also. Okay, these are the classification of IC engine. Thank you.